Firstly, please let me apologise for my voice in this video. I got COVID roughly halfway through recording. You might be able to hear its effects in my voice. Also, due to repeated complaints about the border I use to avoid automated copyright claims, I have done 2 versions of this episode. If you find this version hard to watch, please click the link in the description to watch the other version. Whichever one gets the more likes will become this channel's future brand style. Thanks for watching. These current times will be looked back on as a strange period in Hollywood's history, as we currently find ourselves in a time when the big studios can make more money from not releasing a film and writing off the tax than actually putting something watchable in cinemas. In recent memory, Netflix cancelled the Gore Vidal movie starring Kevin Spacey and Mothership starring Halle Berry. Warner Brothers have likewise cancelled Coyote vs. Acme and the DC Universe's Batgirl.
Batgirl here. Firefly must be stopped. But I can't do it alone.
I know you were supposed to be in Batgirl. I guess that project went away, but
I was in Batgirl. We shot that entirely.
Where is it?
It's in a vault somewhere in the dumpster.
Why?
All of these films were shot and edited and almost ready to go, but for whatever reason they were put on the do not release shelf to be forgotten about.
And it's helped everybody.
Now, not releasing a movie is far from anything new. Jerry Lewis's The Day the Clown Cried entering into legend before I was even born.
Are we ever gonna get to see The Day the Clown Cried? No. No.
Even I have unreleased films. I tried to review another episode of Mrs. Brown's Boys to celebrate hitting a subscriber milestone, but that was nixed when YouTube wouldn't let it pass their automatic copyright system. Though there are many reasons not to release a movie, I blame the recent wave of large-scale movies being left to collect dust on streaming. They created a means of distribution that yields considerably less profits and proceeded to double down every time it falters in some sort of streaming war of attrition, in which the last business standing will have the whole market but no money.
What kind of a thing have I turned into?
Roger Corman's Fantastic Four movie was allegedly produced with the express intention of it never being released. I find that notion difficult to believe, as the amount of time and effort it takes to make even a crap film means the filmmakers would have been better off just flushing that money straight down the toilet. But then the streaming model doesn't make sense either, so let's just assume it's true.
Careful, I must be in shock. I don't feel any pain.
This film was leaked on the internet by a crew member who had a VHS copy. It has since been cleaned up and upscaled by fans. And having watched all 4 Fantastic Four movies released to date, I can say that this is the best one, or at least it's the closest in spirit to the original comics. If you can overlook the cheapness of the effects, you might just have a lot of fun.
The saga of the Fantastic Four started in 1992. Bert Eichinger, a German producer who was a friend of mine, came to me, I think in September or October, I think it was September of that year, and he said he had a problem and maybe I could help him.
There is a very good documentary made about this movie called Doomed. And there's an even more in-depth book called Forsaken by William Nesbitt. So I'm not going to go into great detail about this one, but it's in the wheelhouse of what I wanted to talk about. Long unreleased movies that eventually managed to escape. This is former Saturday Night Live filmmaker Tom Schiller's only feature film, Nothing Lasts Forever.
What's the matter? You've got to go back on there, you know. But I can't go back on.
Adam Beckett is a pianist performing at Carnegie Hall, but when he's called back for an encore, it is revealed he's miming on a player piano.
It's a player piano.
Adam wakes from a fevered nightmare aboard a train in Europe. Upon returning to America, he finds the Port Authority have taken control of New York City. Adam is forced to work in traffic control in the Holland Tunnel.
You'll observe all vehicles. Any vehicle or vehicles which exhibit a sign or signs of disrepair of any nature. Bad tires, pock pitted, a cracked windshield. Missing a hanging body parts, fenders, chrome, grills, doors, panels, side moldings, lubricant leakage of any kind. Missing hanging and dragging and broken bulbs, lenses, and lamps, and especially Cyclops vehicles. Look for them. They are vehicles with only one working headlight.
A homeless man leads Adam to an underground network where he discovers the city's homeless population are controlling the world. Then he's sent to the moon on a mission. Adam boards a bus to the lunar surface filled with retirees who have been chipped to say Miami instead of the moon when they talk about this trip. On the moon he is greeted by the Moon Maidens and falls in love with Eloy, but he's punched back to Earth where he wakes up in an alley just in time to perform his concert.
This is a consumer moon you landed on. Why do you think we gave you all those goddamn lunar teenies up there? For therapy? You're damn tooting nothing lasts forever.
This film is visually unique, shot with both style and skill, mixing colour and black and white, so we're never really sure what's a dream and what is reality. It's almost like an early Terry Gilliam film, but in a 1940s style.
How was it going from doing, because at that point you've done dozens of shorts, how is it to go from being a short writer-director to your first feature? It must have been pretty daunting.
Yes, it was bewildering. I did not know how to do it. Never read those books that said how to write a feature in 22 weeks or something like that. I never knew about the arc and development of the main character and the Act 3 and Act 4 and all that kind of stuff. I just kind of made it up. When I met with one guy at MGM, he said, "You could be quite a compelling short filmmaker, but can you make a feature film?" I thought, whoa, no. But I plunged ahead and did it.
How are you, kiddo?
Well, I'm a little tired, but, everything's okay.
What are your plans?
Well, I've decided to be an artist.
Good. Adam's gonna be an artist. I thought we were gonna have an expatriate in the family.
One of my favourite stand-up comedians, Mort Sahl, appears in a small role, as does a childhood hero of mine, Dan Aykroyd. Bill Murray has a significantly larger role, but Zach Galligan takes the lead before he would find fame in Gremlins.
How can people fly all the way to the moon just to go shopping?
Don't all people from Earth just want to shop?
Not me.
The tone is quirky and offbeat rather than laugh-out-loud funny, and with its surreal plot it was never destined to be a mainstream success. The test audiences hated it, and it was quietly released in one theatre in Seattle to fulfill contracts.
We showed it to several people, and some didn't respond too hot. In fact, I showed it once to, they had a screening for Louis Malle, who I was like in awe of. And after he saw it, he said, "Cut it to the bone." Which I guess in retrospect means it's too long. You know what I mean? And in a way, you're sort of right. I wish I could take a few minutes out here and there.
After its secret theatrical run, the film disappeared. It never got a home video release due to contractual reasons which still prevent it from being released on home viewing now. But the television broadcast rights are secure, and in 1994 it was broadcast on British TV on a show called Withdrawn, which was presented by the director Alex Cox.
Nothing Lasts Forever was directed by Tom Schiller in 1934. Schiller was assistant prop man on King Kong. It is he, covered in boot polish, who stands on top of the giant gates on Skull Island shouting "Kong, Conga, Kong," as the giant ape comes looking for Fay Ray. The same year, 1933, he directed the first of a series of docudramas about the lives of great pianists. Nothing Lasts Forever, the story of the concert pianist Adam Beckett, is the second in his long series of piano-oriented films. Beckett, a vastly popular concert pianist of the teens and 20s, died tragically in 1928 when he was mistaken for John Dillinger at a Chicago rooming house. The young man was leaving the building with a packet of curtain rods wrapped in brown paper when he was accosted by two nervous FBI men who believed they had caught America's most wanted fugitive. What they didn't know was that Beckett, like Beethoven before, was completely deaf. The tragedy that followed forms the climax to Schiller's moving film.
I'm not in on the joke here, but for some reason everything Alex Cox is saying in this introduction is complete fiction. But let's ignore that. VHS home recordings of this broadcast are the most common in circulation on the internet, but the film has played on television in Germany, France, Holland, and in its highest quality on Turner Classic Movies in the US, who have broadcast the film twice. This film does get screened from time to time at festivals or special events, often with Schiller or Bill Murray present, and as a result has gained something of a cult following. But after its financial failure, Schiller would focus his career on making adverts or documentaries.
And what's supposed to be wonderful about America is that you can be a nut or you can be different and you can still do it. You just won't get famous in that system.
I found my copy of Nothing Lasts Forever on archive.org, and just in case the rights owners are listening, if I could have paid for a legal copy, I would have. It's a good film.
I'm in with Hancock's, the trainers, and I'll give you two. 2 for the third race. Come on, you just make it. So I pulled out this inordinately large sum of money, which he immediately grabbed, you see, right? And he'd give me 2. Hermosa of Selsden as number 1 and Polish Otto. Hermosa of Selsden, right? Do it on a tote, he said. Do it on the forecast. So I went in and I shelled out 10 shillings on Hermosa of Selsden and the other dog, right? I come back outside again, see how the betting was going? Hermosa of Selsden is 10-1.
This is the local Stigmatic, a filmed version of the Heathcote Williams play of the same name, starring Al Pacino and Paul Guilfoyle.
I never pay for sex, right? That's because Jesus Christ paid for our sins.
That's got nothing to do with it.
After getting a bad tip at the dog racing, Graham and Ray decide to go to a gay bar which Ray has been thrown out of previously. They stop at the cinema to take in a film, then have an altercation in the street with a drunk who may or may not be the person who gave Graham a bad tip.
I've seen you, haven't I? Cat for dog track.
Well, you're not Joseph at all. Get out of my fucking way.
Yeah?
Don't you touch me. I've ever walked to walk up and down here without you bloody fucking drug addicts coming up to me.
In the pub, they spot an actor who they pretend to be huge fans of, but while walking him home, they kick the living hell out of him for the crime of being famous.
Kick him in the stomach, get him on the ground, put your handkerchief in his mouth, kick him again, we see what follows.
6 months later, and Ray tells Graham that he passed the actor in the street, but he was not recognised.
Bye now.
He seems to be about a few things. Envy would be one of them, about identity would be another. Fame's a part of it too, I guess. Our relationship, people who are not famous, their relationship to people who are famous, haves and have-nots, that kind of thing. I think he was sort of swimming in all that stuff at the time he wrote the play. I think he was also circling around this.
Well, the play is indeed extremely violent, but I think it's also a play of nausea of one's own romanticism too, and vulnerability and weakness in being in allowing oneself to be sucked in by film stars and heroes and politicians.
The text could be interpreted in many ways, but this version paints the protagonists as nihilistic.
Graham, you remember that time I was barred from the queer pub in Earl's Court for adjusting the vertical hold on the television set?
Yes, right.
That was ironical, wasn't it? Barred from a queer pub for adjusting the vertical hold.
As I'm sure will come as no surprise to anyone watching this, I am an Englishman. And any Englishman watching the local Stigmatic will notice immediately Al Pacino and Paul Guilfoyle are not English. I don't know what they're aiming for, but they're not hitting anything close to Cockney. They are both clearly graduates of the Dick Van Dyke School of Accents.
So we go back up the stands into the bar. There's the guy, give us a dog. He's sitting there with his back to us. But this fella I went with, right, he's a bloody egg in fact. You know what he did? He takes a lit cigarette. He walks up right behind the guy. And he burns a hole right in the back of his jacket, just like that.
Do you think that happened at the dog track? My sense of it, well, I didn't think that through until you asked it, but my sense of it is that whatever would have happened, he would have reconstructed it so that it would have been terrible. In other words, Graham is a committed victim.
When I first saw this film, I could not make head nor tail of Graham's opening speech. so I purchased a copy of the script just so I could read along with the movie. When you see the text on the page, it's actually quite a simple story about how he was given a bad bet and then he exacted his revenge on the person who gave the tip. In the movie, it's just a bunch of mockney British noises.
Do you ever meet anyone that's so cockney it looks like it hurts? You know, that's all right, mate, what do you do for me? Oh, fucking, I'm a painter and decorator, mate. No, you know me? I'm a fucking painter and decorator. I fucking tell you, I am so fucking cockney, it's fucking painful. Yes. Fuck me, my elbows, my fingers, my legs, I'm fucked. I'm fucking riddled with it, I'm cockneyed up. I fucking hate it. It's like arthritis, mate. I fucking can't even click me fucking heels, I'm fucked.
Where was it?
Where was it? Mammoth Street.
That's it.
You had a beautiful woman with you then, David. Beautiful buttocks she had. I think it was your wife, Ella. Slightly pregnant at the time. 19,000 men were having blood tests. Beautiful buttocks she had. I watched one go on like a fiddler's elbow, and I lost track of it. Watched the other. Backs of her knees. Almost edible, David. I was with a friend of mine from my office. I watched him come without trimming the candle.
I watched him come without
Trimming the candle.
But as
That's sweet.
in your direction, this friend of
This
mine.
Edward Williams. This guy's Jacobean. This guy is Marlowe and Webster.
I'm not going to give myself.
He was a young Marlowe and Webster, this guy.
What can I ask you now, David?
No one could deny that Al Pacino loves the source material, funding this film version himself after performing the play several times over the years.
I thought that somehow this beautiful writer, this poet, this young, exciting, to me, find, would be sort of recognized, and it wasn't.
The film was made as a personal project for Pacino, and he didn't release it to the public. He did, however, donate a film print to the Museum of Modern Art, on the understanding it would only be played with his permission.
I thought by making a movie of it, that those things in it that were elusive or didn't communicate, I could bring out in a film.
I never understood this until now, which is that the reason you did the film was that it had never gotten the audience, the appreciation, the reception that it deserved, you felt it deserved on the stage. Which suggests to me that if this had been a hit play, maybe you wouldn't have done
I have
the
to
film.
tell you,
Yeah.
there are plays that cannot be translated to movies. In the same way, which the Stigmatic is a great play, I do think that this somehow serves Stigmatic. I think it's a better film than it is a play.
So, how did this film get out? Well, 17 years after the production, Al Pacino quietly released it, with no great fanfare, as a part of a DVD box set of personal projects. Unavailable in HD or as a standalone release, it's the oddity in Al Pacino's filmography.
I said they're not for perusing, those.
Is it foolish?
Hello.
Back at me. How's your wife and my 3 babies? Getting fat? Fame is a first disgrace. Why? Man wants to know why. Fame is a first disgrace, man.
Well, everyone knows that.
Because God knows who you are.
I really like the play on which this film is based, and it could make an amazing film adaptation, but I'm not convinced this was it. At the time of recording, it has been uploaded to YouTube for free, and at a whopping 55 minutes long, it's not a massive time investment if you're still curious.
The 23-year-old Phoenix collapsed early this morning and died a short time later. It happened outside a West Hollywood nightclub. Phoenix's friends say he had been acting strangely shortly before he collapsed. The young actor made his name in such films as Stand By Me and My Own Private Idaho. An autopsy is scheduled to determine the cause of Phoenix's death.
At the time of River Phoenix's death, he was on a break from shooting the feature film Dark Blood in New Mexico, which was proving to be a long and difficult shoot.
Let me tell you one of the ways. There's a lady there named Judy Davis who absolutely decided that she didn't like George. You know, when George and I had been talking, we were already quite friendly, with a warm friendship when I arrived in Utah. I knew him to be convivial, very sane, very, very creative guy. What the hell's wrong with her? How do you decide like that you're not going to speak to your director? Why do you do that? She did that. And he had to somehow deal with that.
We knew that Judy had was a very independently minded person. It may be that the sort of Dutch macho way of dealing with that is maybe not the right approach, not the one that's going to get the results that you can get from a Judy Davis. But that's George's decision as director as to how he handles his relationships with the actors.
But she was also difficult with David Lean.
I know, but David Lean knew how to handle it.
He knew how to handle it,
yeah. He got what he wanted. He may not want to speak to her again. And it may be that by the end of this production, George would have got what he wanted. I could have, I think the English subtle, manipulative, quiet approach would work much better with Judy than a more kind of confrontationalist style of management.
With 80% of the movie in the can, this should have been salvageable. Maybe with some body doubles and a few rewrites it could have worked. Heath Ledger had filmed less of the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, and I think the changes they made to accommodate his death actually improved the movie. But stars Judy Davis and Jonathan Pryce did not wish to continue after the tragedy.
And it was clear that this was not going to get solved. Therefore, we had to accept that situation and make the picture within it, and maybe we'll get something amazing as a result of that because of the conflict and the tension. I don't wish to be cynical, but maybe we will. And I can imagine George, would certainly have the right to have got depressed by it, as would Judy, I have to say. They were just coming from such different places.
The film sat in a vault from 1993 to 1999, when the people holding the film got sick of paying for the storage space, whereupon the director, George Slizer, obtained the film and assembled it for the first time.
If I may make a comparison, we had a chair with 2 legs, and I wanted to add the 3rd leg, to edit and preserve what we had achieved. The 4th leg will always be missing, but the chair would then be able to stand upright. Please take pleasure in the unfinished film, Dark Blood.
An out-of-work actor and his ex-showgirl wife are on their second honeymoon. Their car breaks down in the desert, and in looking for help, Buffy ends up at a cabin belonging to River Phoenix's character, Boy. They end up staying with River Phoenix, who takes an instant shine to Harry's wife, and promises to take him to the nearest town just as soon as he can. But he keeps delaying the journey, and goes as far as dismantling his truck so they cannot leave. They are now hostages, trapped in the middle of nowhere.
Scenes which are missing. I give you one scene which I miss very much, is when they meet in the beginning, when she comes up to see and he's there. She has a wound on her foot. Now I say something, because we don't have the scene, which was an interior scene, therefore to be shot later. When he takes care of the foot. That scene, I had really well in my head how. And it was the big love scene of the film. She comes there, she's exhausted, and she has a wound, and he takes care of the wound. And you'd say, God, can only do a man who has sensibility and gentleness with an unknown woman to be loving.
Due to the production being abandoned, the gaps in the narrative were filled with the director recounting the events as written in voiceover.
Hi.
Boy scrutinizes Buffy. She winces in pain, glances at her foot. I better take a look, says Boy. He strokes her foot tenderly. She can feel desire in his hands. Boy cleans the wound, spreads it apart with his fingers. It's an intimate thing to open someone else's flesh, a woman's flesh. You said we. Are you with somebody? Yes, says Buffy. My husband is still in the car.
It's less effectual than seeing the actual scene, but it's not as intrusive as you might think. Upon completion, this film played festivals around the world, and to fairly solid reviews. but no wide release. It is, however, available on DVD in Germany.
Jonathan Pryce did not want to see the film because he was so fond of River that he couldn't stand the idea of seeing him on film, on the film he worked with. I convinced him to go to Berlin when his film was shown, and finally he came and he was very happy afterwards.
I often find the hunt for hard-to-find movies more enjoyable than the actual film, but I think these three are worth the search, even if you're only watching for curiosity's sake. I'm Scott Kingsnorth, and I'm making a movie, and hopefully it will get released.